So, John, what do you think the difference between teaching and coaching is?
That's a great question. I said that last week. You're on a roll, Mike. Maybe I'll say that's a great question every time. um, well, I've done some teaching. I've never done any coaching. Um, I think, to try to put it in my own words, I guess teaching to me is about helping somebody understand. If I'm teaching someone, I want to help them understand a concept that I understand. Um, I want to communicate something to them that I already know. And with coaching, maybe it's more like, if I'm coaching somebody, I want to help them understand something that they already know. So it's less about what I come into it knowing and more about what they come into it knowing.
Exactly.
That,
And
that's my take.
Right, exactly. And the relevance of me asking that question in the second AI music podcast episode is that we're going to be talking about what that difference could mean in terms of AI music. Because, for example, the way I've been using ChatGPT and other AIs has been largely, not exclusively, but largely, I would probably say 80% of the time, treating or asking it to be a coach and not a teacher. And the benefit of that is that the hallucination isn't a problem. I mean, it is. It does still hallucinate. You can see it happening, but it's not something. I'm not asking it for facts. I'm asking it to ask me questions. And in the last week since we last spoke, I've used ChatGPT specifically an awful lot. And I've got like 4 different conversations going. And I've asked ChatGPT, at the risk of anthropomorphizing it, but I've asked it to come up with its own name for each of these different kind of types of coach. So I've got a kind of daily productivity and creativity coach, and it chose the name Apollo for itself, who's the god of something or other, their creativity and stuff, apparently. But I always thought he was the king of the gods. But anyway, so
Wisdom,
Apollo,
maybe I'm not
maybe
sure.
wisdom. That was it. Yeah. So Apollo, and no, it was Zeus, wasn't it? It's king of the gods. What am I talking about? So anyway, and then another. I've got a writing kind of more of a writing partner called Quill. And I'll be honest, actually, Quill is the least useful because what it comes up with isn't very good at all. But then I've got another one, which I just recently hit go on, and it chose the name Voyager. Because I listen to a lot of podcasts, particularly in the sort of tech space. And what I found myself doing, and I kind of had this insight last week, that I keep suffering from FOMO, and that's not the reason. I'm not listening to these things because I want to work at Google or I want to do a startup, right? That's not that. The reason I'm listening to them is because I'm interested and I want to know what is happening at the bleeding edge, kind of thing. And that, a lot of these podcasts might not be the best way of doing it, but I enjoy listening to them. What ends up happening is I end up getting into this kind of FOMO situation where I'm like, oh, why aren't I doing this? And why aren't I doing that? Right. And so I essentially I thought, what I could do is actually use ChatGPT to tell it what I have learned and what I'm going to do as a result. So we came up with a little process, which it's going to ask me questions. And then that basically kills the FOMO, because it's like, I'm actually using the information from the podcast to do something. So it's like, the FOMO comes from this information just being something in my head that hasn't had any value to me. As soon as and it's worked in this week. It's literally worked. And it came up with the name Voyager for itself. And then there was one other one. What was it? I can't remember. It'll come to me somewhere down the conversation, but there was another one for another. Oh yeah, that was right. Yeah. I decided I wanted to get better at prompting. And I asked it what, and so I said, can you give me, I want you to give me games. I want you to give me some prompt games to play. So I've called, this is a terrible name. I've called them promptlums. So basically what it does is it gives me a kind of prompting problem. You're having to come up with this information for this group of people, and you have to prompt me to do this, and then I write it a prompt, and then it basically marks my prompt and tells me where I can improve, basically. And for that it chose the name Da Vinci. So I've got Apollo, Quill, Voyager, and Da Vinci I'm talking to. And what I do is because it forgets, its context window is quite short, particularly for GPT-4. So a context window is, and you know this, John, but basically a context window is the amount of words it can remember in that conversation. So and it'll forget, it can't kind of access the earlier stuff. So it'll forget.
You have to remind it. Remind it who it is.
Yeah, exactly. So forget in scare quotes, obviously, it doesn't know anything, but essentially it can't access the earlier parts of the conversation. So you have to re-prompt it every now and again. And I've actually asked it to give me the most optimized prompt, which I can re-prompt it with. So essentially that's how I've been using ChatGPT. So Apollo is definitely asking me questions. Quill, okay, so that's one where I do get it to ask me questions, but then I do sometimes I can't resist. I get it to rewrite something or see what comes out, and it's always rubbish. But almost always, there's just one phrase or one thing that gives me an idea, which I then run with. So in that's the one sort of coach or buddy, if you like, where I'm asking it to give me an output, but what it comes out with is not very good at all. I mean, really not very good at all. It's a lot worse than I thought it was when it first came out. Now that the kind of shock has died down in my mind. So Voyager is definitely just asking me questions. It's getting the information out of my head that I've just learned, and I'm sort of deciding what to do as a result of it. And obviously the Da Vinci thing, it's asking me it's giving me these promptlums, which I'm then doing. So again, it's not giving me information. So the reason I gave you that very, very long explanation of all the different ways that I'm using it was because, I mean, obviously they're different kind of, different variations on the same theme. But Apollo, essentially what it's doing is I'm doing a kind of daily routine of a certain number of things, and it's asking me questions about what I've done, what I want to do, what I want to focus on, what my wins were, what the problems were, what the opportunities were, that kind of stuff. So all of these different sort of ways of using ChatGPT are different variations on a theme. And to use a musical metaphor, so the reason for kind of going into that is for us to say, whether that sparks any ideas on how that might correlate to what we could do with using AI in music, using a music AI in this way. Because essentially, I mean, when somebody is trying to, use ChatGPT in a standard way, so like in place of Google, for instance, I mean, what would the similar way of using a music AI be? I mean, what's the kind of not the mirror image, but what's the equivalent in terms of music?
Yeah. So there's a few examples of sort of people literally taking inspiration from ChatGPT style interactions where you type in words and you get some output back. But people have done this with music where you type in words describing the music that you want to get back. And there was a new one that came out
Facebook did
last
one.
week from Facebook on Music Gen, and it's a similar type of thing where you type in some stuff. I think you try to describe the music as best you can, and it gives you something. So I think this is the kind of thing that tends to blow people's minds because it's so new, but it remains to be seen what you do with that kind of interface. And I'm sure people will figure it out and find ways to integrate it into the ways that people already make music.
Well, I mean, I already heard on that note, one of the podcasts that I was listening to, which is like a startup-y type podcast, and you know, the guy was sort of saying, you know, if you want to use some, you know, it's I think he might have said it's not there yet or something. Obviously, they're not musicians, right? So, but it's not yet there yet. But you know, if I wanted some original music on my video or I don't know, sales thing or whatever it might be, or my presentation, whatever, I don't have to go to a stock library anymore. I can just use generative AI. And I mean, I think for right or wrong, for good or ill, that is something that is coming around the corner. That kind of music, that kind of stock music, that sort of, you know, the backing music that's wallpaper music is essentially, I mean, why do you need, so, I mean, again, I don't want to say it's a good thing or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but it's like, why would you? Because it's not exactly music of extremely high quality. It's just, it's very functional, right? It's the most functional music there is. So, you know.
Yeah. So I think there's companies that have been doing that kind of work for a few years, even before the sort of text-based interfaces for, you know, ChatGPT or text to music, text to audio, have been available. That was kind of like you could see the business reasons why people would do that. And there have been a few companies that have done that, aimed at sort of, you know, exactly the type of people you're saying, people who want music for their presentation, their video, their ad. And if they could get a cheaper option than paying for something from a stock library or hiring a composer, then they would do it. It's like you said, it's kind of sad. Well, you didn't say it's kind of sad, but there's a part of it that's kind of sad because this is, you know, one way that musicians have for making income is to
people make money, exactly.
Stock libraries and so on. I did some of that a while back, and even if it wasn't like my favorite music that I've ever made, I definitely got something out of making music for stock libraries. Like, it's a really good exercise.
Yeah, one of my things got on
composer.
Yeah. One of my things got on a MasterChef, and I think it's even still paying me now, and I did it like 15 years ago.
Nice.
So it's like, it is a way that musicians have been able to make ends meet. So that's a bad thing in that sense. Having said that, it has become increasingly hard to do that, and so, you know, but
the music industry is always changing, and this has been coming for a while, you know, whether we like it or not. And I think that, to go back to like the sort of text interface, describe the music that you want, it's just another way of getting the user interface for people to create that sort of custom generated music, where maybe in the past you're using drop downs and you're saying, here, select your genre, select the time, select the climax point along the timeline, select the mood. You know, maybe you have a few different options and you choose all of those, then you
style,
then it will
genre,
give you something.
Sound alike.
So this is just another. That sound alike. This is just another way of doing that kind of thing.
Well, Which is basically
So-
this exactly the brief that you would get as a writer of these types of things. Like, I want it to sound like this. I want it to be this speed. I want it to be this kind of thing, and let's have this mood. And it's like exactly the same thing, except instead of a person doing it, you have an AI doing it. I mean, so there's that
Yeah.
use case. There is another one
Well,
that
yes and no. I want to
Yeah.
address that. I'll follow up on that point because I think there's an interesting distinction. Like, it might be that's the first time that you type it, you might give the brief the same way you'd give it to a human, but then the AI doesn't understand the same way that a human does
No.
when you type in a brief, because its understanding of words and language is different. And so quickly you have to start becoming this prompt engineer where
yeah.
you have to, where you start figuring out, okay, well, it didn't understand what I said. How do I find the right words and the right sentence to put in there where it will do the thing that I'm trying to get it to do? So it's like this, it starts maybe from this sort of brief, but it might change into something totally different as sort of a side effect of the way the technology has limitations.
So how would you describe the difference in which the AI understands it to a human? Have I asked you an impossible question?
Yeah. No, actually, that's not. That's. I think I have a.
Oh, good.
an opinion on that. I don't think that's an impossible question.
Oh, good.
Because I think there's a practical reason for this, which has to do with the training data. So the machine learning, the AI that I've worked on, is mostly to do with small data sets, but the types of things that we're talking about now have to do with like people just getting as much data as they can.
Massive ones.
So that, yeah, massive data sets. And so when you do that, it means that so when you train an AI, you give it, often what you do is you give it like a pair of things, and you're teaching it through lots of examples that when it receives this kind of input, it should give this kind of output. And so you have many pairs of input things and output things. And if one way to train sort of a AI composer, which I don't think anyone has done, would be to have pairs of briefs and compositions. Like, here's the brief, the way that people write briefs. Here's the words, and here's the output. And that would be one way of doing it. And if you did it that way, maybe if it had enough data, like, it would be able to take briefs as input. But that data set doesn't exist as far as I know. But what does exist is people doing captions, people who have been hired after the fact to write descriptions of the way that music sounds, either for the purpose of creating this data set, or, I don't know, for doing some kind of like tagging for a platform, like streaming platforms. So
it's like audio capture.
Yeah, exactly. Audio capture.
How
stuff
many?
like that. So
how many
listening after
traffic
the
lights
fact
are
and
there?
describing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost the opposite. Yeah, it's almost the opposite process that you get when you're giving a brief to a composer. Like, the music doesn't exist yet, and you're describing the music before it exists.
Can I ask you a question? I can't not
AI
ask.
has been trained.
I can't stop.
go ahead.
I can't help. When you do those capture things with the traffic lights, do the traffic lights include the poles, or is it just the traffic lights?
I think they include the polls, from my experience.
You think so?
But I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because I've asked a few
think so.
people this question, and it seems to be 50-50. I never know whether to include the
Okay.
polls or not. Anyway, coming back to it's just one of those things. It's one of those modern questions that has always stumped me. Is a traffic light? When does a traffic light begin and end? One of those questions of our modern times.
We may never know.
We may never know. But apparently, some AI is going to know at some point when it has enough data from enough humans who are getting annoyed because they can't log in. But anyway,
Yeah.
coming.
Well, I think it's going to be, we're never going to solve this problem, because in order to create a data set, you have to agree on which things are part of the traffic light. And if the people creating the data set disagree, then the AI.
There's going to be a whole lot of crashes.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I stopped you mid-flow. I'm terribly sorry about that. You have to excuse me. So
Okay.
what were you saying? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's worth going on about this the way I am, because this is a common thing that happens when people are trying to train an AI to do some task for the first time, or to do it better than the previous platform or product or whatever. A lot of times it's too much overhead or too expensive, or it takes too much time to create a data set that is sort of the thing we would naturally think of if we were to do it from scratch. People instead they look for what's available, and then because that's cheaper and faster, and then they try to sort of mold the problem that they're solving to the capabilities of the data that's available. So what is available, that's the same thing that happened with ChatGPT, right? What is available is just like large amounts of text on the web, whether it's Wikipedia or Reddit or whatever else, all this stuff. So this is the same reason why ChatGPT comes with all sorts of side effects. Like, it's read lots of things that people tend to talk about on forums, as opposed to things that people talk about with their friends in person and daily life. So it's sort of like got this different set of stuff it's exposed to. And the same thing happens like if you're talking about music AI, with the example of if you want to train an AI to compose music to fit with an ad, you might, maybe the sensible inputs to give to the composer would be, maybe you have a sort of a mock-up of what the ad looks like, and maybe you have a brief, or maybe have both those things. But when people have been creating data sets to train AI to do something like that, the data sets that are available were not created to do. They didn't go back and find briefs that were created before music was written. They just found descriptions of music that were created after the music was written. So this is like somebody listening to existing music and writing about it, as opposed to somebody describing what they want before it exists. That's just for a variety of reasons. It's been more available. But developers of these kinds of AI tools were like, well, that's probably good enough. And so there's like many results of that choice. But one of them is that if you want to use one of those, it's going to work better for you if you learn how to write like the people who wrote the descriptions in the training set, which are, if you learn how to write as if you've heard the music already, rather than as if you are imagining the music that doesn't exist, if that makes sense. So you want to match the language that it was trained on, rather than the language that sort of is most intuitive.
I see. Well, this is something else. So I know, like, on another of these tech podcasts, or even it might have been the same one. Might even have been the same conversation. I can't remember. But one of the guys is investing in a company who are wanting to use generative AI to help people like him, who isn't a musician, make music. And so, like your point there brings up an interesting point, which is that, in a sense, I mean, if that's true, then the way that we train these AI is going to influence the course of music. It becomes like a kind of, in a sense, a closed loop, if you like.
Yeah.
And it could, it's funny, you would have thought that the democratization of, what a horrible word, but anyway, the democratization of music would, not the meaning of the word, just the sound of it. So the democratization of music would be a good thing in general, because it would mean, let a billion, whatever, flowers bloom idea. So it would actually increase the variety and presumably, therefore, the health and the beauty of the ecosystem, if you like. But actually, what could happen if we're not careful, from what I'm hearing, and stop me if I'm wrong, is that what it could end up doing is just perpetuating certain tropes and kind of deepening them, because and it's almost like, could it be the case that because with AI, it's not making a copy, but it is copying in a sense, right? It's imitating, I guess. It's not sampling, so it's not taking in that sense, but it is imitating something, and in a way may well be, I mean, it could well be that those imitations, if they're being, and I don't want to be elitist, so this is the tension here. So we've got democratization and then elitism on the other side. But if these copies are being selected and ticked by people who haven't got an trained ear, then it could well end up making our music poorer, in a sense. Is that or am I extrapolating way too far?
No, I think that's a fair take. I wouldn't say that I know any better than you do. I think that, yeah, I think it'll depend on the mechanism for creating the model and like the motivations of the people creating the AI, and just how it's being trained. So yeah, if it's being trained to imitate the taste of certain people or the musical choices of certain people, then yeah, if if it's based on, you know, people with less musicality, then it would be less musical.
And those
but-
imitations in themselves, I mean, it's funny because music creates itself in a sense. It's like the expectations, because I mean, you know, for example, I mean, if I was to have played myself pop music today, so some of the pop music today, I'd go, there's absolutely no way that is going to be popular, like in at the top of the charts, because it's too weird, right?
Yeah.
Not all of it, but there's occasionally there are some things which are just like, whoa, that's like very, very. I mean, I'm talking on the good side now, so that's very edgy. That's something that, well, personally, I believe good side. It's kind of on the edge. It's pushing something. It's like unusual. The production's kind of out there, and you know, even the beats are a bit out, and it's like I'm not sure where the one is, and it's like there's no way that that's gonna be called pop. And it is now,
Yeah,
right, because of it sort of creates itself. Like, what is popular? I mean, I think there is an idea out there that what is popular is like almost like an innate thing that was always going to be this. There was no other way, and it really doesn't have to be like that. Similarity. I mean, this is a philosophical kind of musical question, but it's almost like similarity, like something that you recognize, something that you're familiar with becomes something that becomes popular. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense. So,
yeah.
Because I had always assumed before this conversation that the democratization, anything that sort of democratizes the making of music, is essentially a good thing. That's kind of been my thesis through.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure.
I think it has. I think it's a really important point for people to think about, because there's like nuances that I have started to feel more recently. I think there's positives and negatives to it, and democratization has been used in the tech industry for a long time as like a position,
universal panacea.
Everyone gets access to this thing, so the playing field is leveled. And we've seen so many times that that's not how it plays out, right? Because there's just people who have more privilege, have more access to to the things, and people who design the technologies bake in their
Assumptions.
opinions and their assumptions and their biases. So, like, but at the same time, I got into making music very seriously because of technology that made it easier for me to do it. Like I didn't love practicing an instrument, and I sort of would get bored and stop practicing. But when I got like this little 4-track recorder and I could just put sounds together and play around, like I was hooked. And, without that, I probably wouldn't have gotten as into music as I did. And so there's definitely that benefit, but there's also like ways where it's very narrow. Even, if you think about like the ways that DAWs are designed, DAWs, they're very like Western music centric. There's a lot of musical traditions that are kind of like not really designed for. And so I benefited from that, but there's other people who didn't benefit from that. And so I'm more aware of that now than I used to be. And I think that same thing is certainly happening with AI and will happen with AI in different ways. And I'm not sure exactly how, but like, I think your point about it being designed for people who don't really have a lot of experience making music, but would like to make music. And that was part of what got me excited about working in AI music in the first place. I was motivated more by like the learning aspect of it, where like it was cool to me to, even if I didn't have all the technical skills to complete something, to imagine seeing like a vision of mine more fully realized than I maybe could carry out without some extra tool. So like that expanding your creativity, I think, is really exciting and motivating. But not everybody wants to keep learning. Some people just lose interest. Like I think, this is my opinion, I think you have to be into music. You have to be really into it, excited about it, to like continue learning. Even with a new tool, you just sort of incorporate it into your other tools that you use. But if the tech is designed to not let you move forward and keep learning, if it's just there to make it fast and doesn't allow you to expand your creativity sort of on an ongoing basis.
In some way, I mean, again, I'm going to say something which I actually disagree with in many ways, but it is a thing, which also means that you have to learn less. That's the
other side of what I said, right?
Yeah, exactly. So those words are coming out of my mouth, and
yeah,
I'm currently looking at an array of equipment before me, which has allowed me to learn less. Right? So arpeggiators and drum machines, and I can now make a full piece of music myself without any other person, right? From soup to nuts, the whole thing. So it's almost like, I mean, I had to learn things. So I have to know how the drum machine works, but I don't need to learn the drums, right? I don't need to practice my arpeggios to get an arpeggio out of my,
right.
Subharmonicon.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's both at the same time, like there's still no replacement for like an amazing drummer, right? And hopefully we don't see less people learning instruments. But I
think we actually do. I mean, I think we already do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's just, what we lose through some of this.
Which playing League of Legends instead.
But, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that's just the way things go, I guess. But I want to go back to the point that we started on around. So like, I feel like we talked about some examples of how AI can be designed to like do stuff for you, right? If you don't know how to play the drums, you can still get it to play drums, but there's even within that, there's a divergence in how that could play out. It could end up being that you just use like drums come out and they sound quote good, and you use those drums because that's what it does. Or it could be that you have a really creative vision for what the drums will sound like, and you use the tool to make that vision happen, and in a unique way that sounds different when Mike does it than when John does it or when anyone else does it.
I think the thing that and we've only got 5 minutes left before we have to stop, but we'll end on a cliffhanger just like we did last time, and eventually we will actually talk about the thing we're threatening to talk about. But I think this is all this is all useful kind of build up to it. But having a vision for what you want the drums to sound like is still, I think, the AI, you asking the AI to do something and it giving you what you want. Like, give me information. Now, information in this case is the music, right? I want this information, this collection of notes or this collection of beats in this particular order, with this particular groove. And whether you have a clear vision or you don't have a clear vision, it's still the same. It's the same direction, if you like, from AI to human. Yeah, so it's like, give me this. Okay, here you go. Whereas what I'm interested in seeing, if there is something here, is I know I know there is a vision, or I know there could be a vision, or musical vision, and I want the AI to help me find it, to clarify it, right? Or even I can go in without so I'll give you an example of one of the ways that I'm using ChatGPT all the time. It's one of my favorite ways is that I will do, I will listen to a splurge, a piece of my, just an idea, a musical idea. And as I'm listening, I will free write whatever comes out. Just when I say write, literally write words. So I'm typing words. If whatever comes out, I did it twice today. And I'll just write anything, like just complete nonsense, whatever comes out. And then I have a specific prompt that I ask, which is, could you analyze this free write for any themes or symbolism, any hidden messages, anything, or connections, patterns that I can't see? And then it comes out with all of this stuff, some of which resonates and some of which doesn't, some of which I'm like, whoa, that's deep, right? Because, and what you're actually, you're gone. Yeah.
So I'm curious, when it does that analysis, do you think it's acting as more of a teacher or more of a coach?
Oh, that's a really good question, John. It's definitely not a teacher. I mean, I suppose it is in a sense a teacher in that it's drawing. It's more, I suppose. No, it's not a teacher. I guess it's more of it's more of a kind of psychoanalyst or something. so it's not a coach either, because it's doing something kind of different there. But it's like, I mean, I guess what I'm asking it to do. I mean, I don't know whether I'm right about this or not. You'll have to disavow me if I'm incorrect. I guess what it's kind of doing is what it does as a large language model.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. It's.
I mean, it's doing what it does. It's
for more words that would be likely to come after what you just said.
Yeah, exactly. So you're asking for it to predict or see the patterns, and it's like, just show me your predictions of what this could mean. In other words.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Because now I'm not sure again whether you're having to be a teacher or a coach. Maybe it's.
Well, the thing is, the
You're
reason
moving
I'm
towards having it be a coach.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
it
the
doesn't
thing,
quite know. It doesn't quite know how to be a coach. It hasn't been trained on coaching. You're trying to get it to ask you questions and stuff, but it's not a professional coach the way you are.
No, but I mean, but bear in mind, this is just one of the ways in which I'm using it, right? But I guess the reason I'm saying it's not a teacher is that I'm not asking it for information other than the information that I'm giving it. Now, it may well be using the way that it works and the information that it has in order to uncover things that I already am doing. Right. So in this sense, it is being a coach and not a teacher, because it's showing me what I already know. Going back to the first thing. How it's doing that may well be more akin to teaching. How a teacher might do it. So, for instance, I've never had a coaching session where I have been asked to kind of. But having said that, when I listen to people answering my questions, I am definitely pattern matching. I'm definitely noticing the assumptions. I'm definitely noticing things that person doesn't know. So, in another sense, I am. Because I guess for me, my definite, and again, I do understand that teaching does involve some coaching, and coaching does involve some teaching and everything. But my distinction between teaching and coaching is essentially, with teaching, I am giving you information that I have. I'm teaching. I'm getting you to understand information that I'm in possession of. So it's almost like I'm giving you something. Whereas in coaching, I'm facilitating a situation in which you actually create that knowledge, not that knowledge, but some knowledge for yourself. So you're telling me things and I'm reflecting these things back to you, which then allows you to have a greater understanding about that which you are already doing or that which you're not doing. And so in that sense, me free writing and it telling me what this could mean is more like coaching.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I like that. I think I still haven't figured out a good answer to what the musical analogy is.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, John.
We can end on the cliffhanger.
Yeah. What we'll do is we will leave that hanging there, and let's just take. I think what would be easier is now we're on this free writing example. Let's keep that in our minds, and over the next week, as both like our homework is for us to figure out how this specific example, what the musical version of that would be if there was one. And
yeah,
but what I'll probably end up doing is something where I'm just I'm not thinking about what's possible. I'm just what we can do with the actual technology. It's just, if it was possible, this is what it would have to look like.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Brilliant. Excellent, John. Well, we now have a challenge. So let's see how it goes.